Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's edition of the Maconi Setup Shop A-Fix Tutorials. This week we're looking at what I consider to be my home track and one of my all-time favorites, the Michigan International Speedway, so strap in and let's get to it. As always, we'll talk about the gearing. In solo car, you can run fourth gear, but you hit the chip pretty much at the end of the straightaway, so 100% when you're in the race and in the draft, um, you will be in fifth gear, no questions asked, because of the speeds that you'll be reaching. I think for qualifying, I still think fifth gear is better, simply because you can get in the gas more aggressively and keep the rear tires under you. Also, for the sake of this video, in terms of consistency in lap times to show you guys the different lines, I am running a lane off the wall down the tri-oval. During the race, it's important to know that you'll be moving all over the place. Typically, you see everybody running all along the bottom uh, during the race. But I think with how hard it is to pass on the inside, I honestly do think that you'll see everybody kind of protecting the top. So you might see cars running about where I am in this video, maybe a slightly lower, but you definitely want to protect your right rear and not let anybody get to your outside. Speaking of lanes, here in Michigan, the first three lanes with the latest track updates that we have, I feel like the first three lanes are really usable. It is important to know, and this is a big characteristic of Michigan that I've always loved. The first lane on the very bottom along the yellow line doesn't have the same amount of banking as the rest of the corner. Okay, so if you do run down on the yellow line, it is faster entry to center, but you don't carry that momentum off the corner. Okay, so it's one of those things where if you're up alongside somebody and you're slightly ahead and you want to use it, it's an option, but you better make sure you clear them on exit, otherwise they're going to drive right by you on the back straightaway. Okay. The other thing too is it's very important to be careful when running the bottom as you're coming up. Again, because of the difference in banking, it's very possible to feel like you're de-wedging the car, okay, because you're going over that transition and get loose. The other thing that you can do is touch the apron like I did. Um, to be honest with you, that didn't really hurt me as much as you would think. The biggest difference is the runoff. Okay. Um, it's a great option for trying to make a pass. It's kind of a desperate move, in my opinion. The preferred line has always been the second lane wrapping the seam, and I will get into a little bit of technique that I like to use on both ends of the racetrack. But the preferred lane for Michigan has always been the second lane right down on the seam. And realistically, you want to paint your left sides on that seam, and it's hard to explain unless you drive the racetrack, but you just feel that difference in grip. Okay, it's a lot more comfortable and a lot faster than the bottom, and it's a lot more comfortable and faster than the top. And by top, I mean this third lane here. If you are getting past, this is the lane that you'll typically run. In a race situation, if you see somebody going to the bottom and you have that second lane available, by all means run it. Okay, it is without a doubt the most preferred lane, and it is the fastest lane. When you are trying to pass somebody, don't be afraid to just run that second lane. Okay, you're not obligated to go to the yellow line just because you're underneath somebody. In years past, that's always how it's been around here. As far back as I can remember, everybody's always tried to run this second lane. Even when dynamic track was a thing and you had guys running the fence, you had guys running the very bottom. If you got underneath somebody, you can put it right here on this seam and make them run above you, and more times often than not complete the pass just because of the amount of grip that's there. Uh, for the next lap, I want to talk about the seam and what I'm aiming for. Turn 3 is quite simple. Once you get to the end of the straightaway where you see the safer barrier start to form out, that's where you want to lift and get into the corner and again wrap that seam. This is a racetrack you do not want to feel like you're overdriving entry. If you feel like you're overdriving entry, do whatever you have to do to back the corner up because you will absolutely melt a right front tire. Okay, real quick, just going to play in slow motion. This seam here, I've always tried to aim like I'm running this over. Okay, you're not going to run this part of the seam over, But on the in-car, you really want to feel like you're as close to it as you can because of the angle that you get off the corner. Okay, it's very common to get tight off a turn two. If the attitude of the car is pointing towards the wall, you're going to get really, really tight. Okay, if you hit the corner right and you feel like you're trying to follow this seam right here, you'll never have the car feeling like it's going to the wall. It's always going to feel like it's pointed off the corner. Okay, that's a huge thing in the characteristic of this racetrack and how to be successful around here. You always want to feel when you're coming off a turn two like you're pointing down the racetrack. You don't want the car to feel like it's drifting itself up to the wall while you're cranking wheel into it. Okay, I always come off a turn two more often than not with the wheel feeling pretty straight. Okay, that's how you're going to save the right front mostly. And then when you're in traffic, it's all about managing the throttle. Again, I have no idea what the draft is like. I know how bad dirty air is, but even running the bottom, you can see how straight my steering wheel is. Okay, it's a huge, huge tip for Michigan, and for the most part, everybody who's always been fast around here, that's how they do it, right? You can run the top, and it's the same thing. If you run that third lane, it's obviously not as fast, but it's going to be easier to get the car pointed down the hill because of how much room you have. But if you ever feel like you're getting into the corner too hard and using a lot of steering wheel to get it to turn, I promise you, you are absolutely melting that right front tire. Okay? You see how the attitude of the car is always pointed down the racetrack. If you were to drive it any harder and start missing that seam and sliding up, the nose is almost going to point it to the wall, and you're going to lose all your momentum going down the back straightaway because you're going to have to lift or hit the wall. Okay? In traffic, uh, I think it's just important to be smooth with your inputs and understand that you're not going to get the best drive in dirty air. Okay? Um, Especially racing here, dirty air has always been a pretty big factor since they released it. Back in the day when we didn't have to worry about it, you still wanted to feel like your left front was underneath the car in front of you because you knew you were going to be closer to this seam and get a much better drive off. Okay, that was even before we had dirty air. Again, this being solo car, it is important to know that where I'm lifting in the race, you're probably going to have to lift a little bit sooner, but the line is the same and the technique is the same. You are trying to get down to the seam and you just want to straddle the seam on both ends. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, the second lane has always been the preferred racing line. Okay, this bottom is very good entry to center, but you have to be careful crossing the transition right there. If somebody's tight on your quarter panel, it's going to make it really difficult. If you're trying to keep it off the car on top of you, you're going to get loose because it's a different banking. Okay, so it's very easy to de-wedge the car and feel like you're getting loose. This car makes enough mechanical grip that it should be okay, but it's the sensation of feeling that you're getting loose that can get you into trouble. Okay guys, couple things to touch on again. Just for the sake of this video, I was running about a lane off the wall simply for the consistency of lap times, just to show you the difference between lanes. In the race, I'm sure you'll be moving all over. Another tip for qualifying as well, keep it away from the wall in the back straightaway because of the aero proximity and the drag that you get from the wall. It's going to slow your lap time down. I don't think I mentioned that early in the video, so I wanted to touch base on it now. For your qualifying lap, it's the same thing. I do think the second lane, without a doubt, is the best way to get around here for qualifying. Just make sure you stay away from the wall so you don't get the aero drag. And then on the front straightaway, you're obviously going to get down to the white line so that you can cut as much time off your lap as possible. Okay, guys, I'm pretty sure that I've covered everything I wanted to for this one. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or anything that you would like clarification on, as always, please leave a comment down below and I will get to them throughout the week. If you find that this video is helpful, please consider leaving a like. And last but not least, if you're not a subscriber already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can see these videos every Monday when they're posted to the Maconi YouTube page. Okay, guys, best of luck this week, and we'll see you out on the track.